Okay, so, as much fun as the circuit game mode can be, it is planes of Eidolon on launch, levels of broken. Now, if you haven't done the circuit a lot, or you mostly played solo, you've most likely dodged all the ridiculous bugs. So let me give you a quick rundown of what's going on. So when it first launched, there were a handful of things that could go wrong. One of them is that enemies would spawn underneath the world during a defense, so you couldn't finish defense waves. Another one was stages either instantly failing or instantly finishing. So you would load in and you would instantly fail, or you would load in and instantly complete the stage, which sounds good until you realize that you are now stuck in that mission because you can't move on. Then at some point, and I think this was introduced through a hotfix, you couldn't go past Zone 3. Basically, if you go to the end of Zone 3 and you selected to go to Zone 4, you would just stay in Zone 3 and never load into Zone 4. This was an issue for solo play as well as group play. This was luckily fixed with the next hotfix, as well as a few of the other things that were going wrong. But then some other issues started popping up, specifically with defense and excavation. This is the reason why, if you're playing in a public squad, people leave the second they see either defense or excavation as the next mission. Basically, if you load into a defense or an excavation, there's a pretty good chance either the defense objective or excavators will not spawn. And there is nothing you can do about it. You just have to leave and lose everything. And finally, we have the loading issue. When you're first loading into the circuit, you may have noticed that it sometimes takes forever to load into the cave. At first, I thought this was an issue on my end, even though it was kind of random because it would only happen sometimes, but it's actually not. It's actually an issue with what's happening in the cave. If people are swapping their gear around a lot, it's gonna take you forever to load in. Now, how do I know this? Well, because if you swap your gear in the cave really fast, or you just pick your gear really fast, you actually get a pop-up saying, hey, maybe, try not doing that so fast because it messes up people's loading. I guess it's because the game has to constantly load in these new items people are equipping, so it adds to the load time, sometimes resulting in like 3-minute load times. The main issue with this, aside from the fact that, the 3 other people are just sat there doing nothing, waiting for you to load in, is that if those people get sick and tired of waiting for you in the cave and they go into the undercroft, you don't get to choose your gear. The game will auto-pick random stuff and just load you in. Now, I might just be really unlucky here, okay? But yesterday I kept tabs on the missions that I was able to finish, and the missions I had to abandon and forfeit all the rewards, so I would lose everything. And I ended up finishing fewer missions than I had to abandon, which I think is pretty bad. It's why I'm sat here making this video instead of farming the new adapters. Because I woke up today, in a good mood, and I was like, you know what, it was pretty bad yesterday, but let's try to get the first adapter, okay? So I jump in, I do the first mission, we get a good squad, I get a good set of gear, we finish it, it's awesome. Then I immediately do a second run, which bugs out and fails, then I do a third run, which bugs out and fails, and then I try a fourth solo run in which I get no usable gear for Steel Path whatsoever. Which is actually the next thing I want to talk about. I feel like the Steel Path version of the circuit needs some form of gear curation, because there are far too many items in the game that are just not well suited for Steel Path. And I know I'm not the only one that has an issue with this, because the number of people that leave the second they load into the cave and see that they got nothing good has increased dramatically over the last few days. Now, I'm not saying that you should only be able to get good things, right? That would kind of defeat the point of the game mode, but maybe there should be a system like you can select a pool of items, right? So you select 10 Warframes, 10 primaries, 10 secondaries, and 10 melee weapons, and then whenever you load into the cave, 1 Warframe, 1 primary, 1 secondary, and 1 melee weapon is gonna be drawn from that pool. This would keep the RNG idea of it, right, but it would remove the situation where you load in and you're like, well, I literally like none of these things. What is this garbage? And the final thing I want to talk about is actually specific to the normal mode version of the circuit. I think it scales way too fast. Like once you're in zone 6, 7, 8, the enemy levels are in the hundreds, which is just ridiculous. The biggest issue I see with this is, well, a pretty standard issue for defense. The enemies will outscale the defense objective and it will get obliterated in seconds. This is also why I feel it was a strange choice to include defense as one of the objectives in the circuit. Because if none of you get a frame that can defend an objective, there is very little you can do about defense at high levels. So yeah, circuit is a bit of a mess at the moment, with the most annoying thing about it being, of course, the bugs. It just doesn't work a lot of the time. But anyway, that's it for the video. Let me know what you think about the circuit in the comment section down below. I thank you very much for watching as always, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.